what's up, everybody? This is Gary Holt from Exodus and formerly from Slayer, and you're listening to The Razor's Edge.
Welcome back to The Razor's Edge, where today we have Sepultura's legendary frontman, Derrick Green, with us. Derrick, welcome.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm good. So this is the week that the final Sepultura record drops, the EP, The Cloud of Unknowing. It sees you go out on a high. How pleased are you with this record?
Extremely. It was really a lot of fun to work in the studio, especially working with Grayson for the first time, our drummer. It was very smooth, very natural, how everything really came together. So I'm extremely happy about that, and the diversity of songs that we have on the EP. It's really something we've never done before. I think that's something that's keeping in the line of Sepultura. Even before I was in the band, always creating new sounds or new ideas and not being afraid to explore it. So I'm extremely happy with it.
Excellent. Yeah, and I've had the chance to listen in advance, and I'm loving this EP. How much do you think
Oh, great.
the songs reflect the full career of Sepultura? You mentioned there even before you joined the band, so I think it hits on every era, really, doesn't it?
It really does. I was thinking that the other day when I was listening to it, and we intentionally didn't do that. I think it just happens naturally. There are certain elements of the past that we can elaborate on, which is always a lot of fun. And there's a lot of new things that are happening in our lives and around us, so that has a big influence as well. Adding a different person to the mix of Sepultura, like I was saying with Grayson recruitment, his background coming from jazz, I think that he was able to put a bit of his personality into it, along with every person that comes into Sepultura. So it was really cool to hear that, and not really knowing where the direction of what was the full outcome going to be, was exciting as well. But just letting the process happen, like really believing in ourselves and being in a very good position of the band. Everyone's communicating very well and having a great time on the road and playing live. So we recorded this at the big. I mean, it's almost been a year now. So we were literally coming off like a boat cruise that we had done and went directly into the studio. So. Everything was just timed out perfectly, but it's been fantastic.
Excellent. And at what point did you decide? Because obviously a few years ago you announced the end of Sepultura. At what point did you decide we need a final record to go out alongside the farewell?
I guess it kind of happened once we started playing shows with Grayson. Like the idea came about because we hadn't planned that at all. Once we made the announcement, it was just really to focus on the shows. But we realized that we still had, some things we wanted to do. We had talked many times about doing a ballad. I don't know if people were really taking it seriously when we were talking in interviews, but in our own mind, we always wanted to do that. It was something we never had, and now it just seemed perfect to attempt to do a ballad. Being the farewell and all. So yeah, I mean the idea just really came from, realizing that there's a really great connection touring with Grayson and some ideas floating around that could be done.
Yeah, and you mentioned it's Grayson's first album. Obviously, when you announced the end of Sepultura, Eloy was still in the band. How much of a blow was that he decided to step away? Obviously, he had a good personal opportunity himself, but how much of a blow was it for you guys to have him leave before the end?
Yeah, it was definitely in the moment. It was shocking because we had no idea, and it was also a week out, maybe a week and a half before even starting the tour. I was literally packing my things to go to Brazil to start rehearsals that we had all set up and agreed upon. So yeah, it sucks. It sucks when anyone, decides to um believe in the way that it happened. I'm happy for him.
Yeah,
I understand the opportunity. I think we all did. It
yeah,
was just the fact of how everything really rolled out. It's
yeah,
not the greatest. These things happen. I mean, now looking back, it's it's in the past. It's like everything worked out the way that it's supposed to,
yeah,
honestly. And I could, of course, it was very difficult to see that at the time. It just seemed like, oh man, here's like another like big like surprise that coming out of nowhere. How are we gonna, be able to survive through this? We've had so many throughout the history of the band. So um, we were able to really push forward quickly. We're very lucky that and very fortunate that Grayson was available
yeah,
to do it and down to do it. And the fact that we got along is another thing, personality wise. This is also an incredible factor um, that many people probably don't think of when it comes to creating a band or keeping a band together. The communication and the ability to get along with another person. So we all those boxes were checked with Grayson, and we're very lucky that we're able to find um, you know somebody to fill out the farewell tour at
yeah,
the very last minute. Literally, like that day we were already searching when we found out. So
yeah.
yeah, I think everything worked out the way that it is. I hope Eloy's happy where he's at. I'm sure he is, and we're definitely happy with the way the tour has been going.
Yeah. And I've seen you a number of times on the tour, and Grayson's been a great addition to the band. I think he fits in really well.
Absolutely.
Um, so as it stands now, Sepultura have had a 42-year career. So when it's all said and done, what would you hope the band's lasting legacy is?
Well, I think, with a lot of bands that do a farewell or bands that have finished their careers, it always sticks with the fans.
Mm,
It's like the bands never really truly die. I think they stay in the minds and the hearts of many people.
mm,
I know I have a playlist of many bands that are done and over, but in my mind, they're still, very relevant and very have a huge impact on my life to this day. Bands I grew up with
yeah,
and things like that. And I think Sepultura is one of those types of bands where you hear a song or from the catalog and it's like a time machine in a way where it brings you back to a certain moment and maybe where you were or who you're hanging out with. And it's usually, I think, positive or good times. I know it is for me when I hear, you know, older songs or old stuff from the past. It puts me right back in a place where it's like, wow, like very good memories. So I think, a lot of Sepultura fans should be able to have that, or have that, where it's never truly going away. But, um, I think, we definitely didn't want to get to the point of just like burning everything out where
yeah,
everyone's miserable and the stage performance is weak or
yeah,
lacking in certain ways. To end out on top is just the best way to go on our own accord.
yeah, absolutely. And for yourself personally, you've been part of Sepultura for 28 years now. And to me, it
Hmm.
seems like only yesterday you were announced as the new frontman of Sepultura. So,
Only
um,
yesterday, yeah.
how has the last 20 years, 28 years in Sepultura been for you?
It's been phenomenal. It's like I couldn't have ever imagined, the way that it's gone. Um, I mean, I've always wanted to be in a band and play in a band since I was 14, 15 years old. It started from going to my first show, a hardcore show, and seeing that and just falling in love with the entire idea of being in a band. But I never imagined that it would end up moving to a different country, learning a completely different culture and language, and traveling to over 80 different places in the world. It's been an unbelievable career, and I'm very grateful the way that everything has turned out and meeting so many wonderful people and having so many accomplishments with this band, and having all the ups and downs. I think that's super important as well, um, because we become very resilient and sticking together and knowing, our what we can do and stepping outside the box and creating, and as an artist, it's a dream come true.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mhm.
And you had big shoes to fill when you joined the band. So did you have any trepidations about stepping up to the plate and joining Sepultura, replacing Max?
No, not at all. I mean, it was actually a time period where there wasn't the internet or anything, so I didn't really know how massive the band was. It was only word of mouth. You have a friend that's like, "Oh yeah, I saw the show. It was great. It was pretty big. There were a lot of people there." And then you read zines and things like that or magazines, but I had no idea until I actually joined the band and was traveling to different places and seeing it for myself.
Mm.
It changed everything entirely. I started to get a bigger picture of what I was stepping into. Um, but before that, I mean, of course I knew the band, but I wasn't fanatical. And so the fact that I'm a pretty realistic person. I don't project so much my ideas of people that I don't know. So I didn't know these guys. I had an idea of who they were just from seeing on an album cover, which is nothing. I don't.
Yeah.
I know them from their music, which is just a part of who they are. But me stepping in was a completely different situation. I was looking at that reality, what was present in front of me, not what happened in their past or what could be happening so much in the future. It was really what was really important in the time that I joined was for me to represent myself. They wanted to see what I could do in the rehearsals or in the tryouts that I was doing, and so I think anyone being put in that position, they're going to try their best to show who they are and what their capabilities are. And that was the main focus for me was every day of survival, of wanting to improve and wanting to prove that I could uh, for myself, but also for the band. That was
Yeah.
where all the focus was. And I think anyone put in that position would be thinking about that. I didn't know, the old singer or what had transpired as far as like I wasn't in that situation. So it wasn't really my concern. It wasn't really anything that I was thinking. I was thinking about, wow, we're going to do a show. There's going to be 20,000 people. I need to be prepared. I need to do vocals for a new album. I need to write lyrics. There were like a million other things that were just relevant to me and that moment. So it wasn't, uh, going through the internet looking at like what people or there was no real internet. I mean, as far as like a lot of people using it the way that they are now. So it was just really focusing the moment.
Yeah. And you talk about the internet and how people use it now. And whenever I see a post or we post about Sepultura these days, there's always someone who comments, "It's not Sepultura without Max." So what's your reaction, or what do you say to people when they say that to you?
I honestly, I don't, I don't comment or anything. People write that on my page every now and then.
Yeah.
I think people are entitled to their own opinion. I mean, I've heard it all the way back from when I joined the band,
Mm.
it changed its form of like people like copy paste. It just sounds like people are kind of like repeating what they heard. It's like kind of like the mindless sheep. Like it's obvious like this person a lot of times says
Yeah.
knows nothing about what happened after the formations of the band or really have an idea of what's been transpiring through the band or the music that's been creating. It's so easy to tell that people don't know what they're talking about, especially with the internet and online.
Mm.
How many people are just like projecting their insecurities or their envy or their jealousy or their hatred or their negativity. It's like a huge space for people to release all this, and try to push that on other people. It's interesting because it just keeps ramping up. You have like people being bullied and things like that have a huge impact on a younger generation. But I'm not from that generation, so I don't give a shit, about what people say. I mean, it's true. I grew up before there was any of this like typing online and stuff
Yeah.
like that. It was like used to people saying stuff to your face, which most people never would do that to me. I know that, just for the fact they don't have the fucking courage. That's why a lot of times people use a keyboard or
Yeah.
whatever because they have that safety and security of their parents' basement or wherever they're living or whatever rock they're under. But it's just like, for me, it has no effect really on me because it's not the reality. They're typing from somewhere of sadness and negativity, and I'm preparing for a tour to open up for maybe like Metallica. So it's just like in stages where if I do come across something, I'm usually in the perfect place where I want to be in my life. And so it's just only laughable. I feel bad for these people that spend so much time um writing about things that they don't really know about. It's not only with Sepultura, and they have an idea of how it is. And I mean, I heard this even when the Eagle was in the band. It was like, oh no, Cat, and then it became like, oh no, Cavaliers, no Sepultura. Even when he was in the band for 9 to 10 years, like it's just like people that like following whatever they hear, but deep. When you go to the shows, you come to the shows. It's been the best time period since I've been in the band for that many years. It took a long time to build up a fan base, but now there's been so much time that I've been in the band. There are a lot of people who grew up where they just started with me being in the
Yeah.
band. It's been over 20 years. So for them, that's a reality for them of Sepultura.
Yeah.
There's just many phases that it's gone through, and I think that's typical for most bands. There's hardly any bands with the original members in it or original members. I don't even know what that means. Bands go through transformations, people go through transformations. That's life.
Yeah.
It's just like things are going to change, so it's the same, with the music. Majority of bands are changing out, switching out, changing formations. It's hard to say what's original. It's Sepultura is Sepultura. We're still, creating music, new music and doing what we do and then performing shows. And honestly, since I've been in the band, this is the best, as far as like the peak, as far as like having the strongest team of people together.
Yeah.
I think the tightest, that we've been, and just enjoying what we do, that's like, the success for me. And so for, people that are online, I think it's just like really, you know, don't spend so much time. I mean, people are going to do what they're going to do, but I would say, like really step back, relax on projecting your negativity. I don't understand the whole fact of going to a page and writing like of people you don't know at all, and have such strong, conviction on something that you don't even know about. So that doesn't make any sense to me. But
Yeah.
I think it's, for me, it's just, really being the reality. This is much more gratifying.
Yeah. And there's been a lot of lineup changes over the years.
Hmm.
Even since you've been in the band, I worked
Yeah.
earlier. I've seen 6 different versions of Sepultura live. Um, Most of those changes have been drummers since you've been in the band. So,
Right.
what's your favorite? What's your favorite lineup to have played with Sepultura?
I don't know. I honestly don't see things as a favorite. I think there's definitely like epic times with every drummer that I play with in Sepultura, each one being phenomenal. Like I'm really thankful that we've had such uh, impressive drummers. Like people who are dedicated to their craft, who were exceptional. So you have a different feeling and vibe playing with these different personalities. Because they're all different personalities of each person that's been playing drums in Sepultura. So it adds a different feeling and a different vibe. It also has an effect of what year that we're playing. Like even if we're playing the same place, it's never the same. Even playing the same songs, it's never really the same. There's always some slight difference that's going on. The same with drummers empowered, but there were different feelings. Like with Igor, it was the first time. There were epic moments of playing like Rock in Rio for me for the first time. It was just like, wow, that was intense. And recording, a lot of albums we did together. It was great times, working with Jean Dolabella. It was great, once we got into our groove, especially with Kairos album, it was really great to find that with him and doing epic shows, again, like big high point, playing with Metallica or doing touring and doing shows with them in South America. And Eloy, working with them, like a whole different energy. Um, it's just like each person, there's definitely been like moments and recordings that have been great and fun to do. So I don't really have a favorite, honestly. It's just always I love the experience that I've had and what I learned working with each drummer. Like I learned something working with all these different people. And it was all like incredible knowledge and understanding and feelings from that. So I don't have an actual favorite. They're all so important to really get to where we're at right now. Even having this conversation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hmm.
And you're bowing out with this farewell tour. It's been going on a number of years now.
Hmm.
I think I've seen you at least twice, if not three times, on the farewell tour so far. So, do you have a final date in mind of where you're going to play the final show?
Final show will definitely be in Sao Paulo. We're working on having it before the end of this year. Um, there's no date set now, but coming soon for sure.
Mm.
The reason that a farewell tour usually takes a long time for the fact that you want to try to place every place that you can in the world. It's a big world, and also you want to take your time doing it. At least with us, we didn't want to just do it in one huge uh, sweep, where it's just like, all right, let's just do this in 8 months everywhere that we possibly can. A lot of things have to be planned out. Not everything is open the way that we want it to be. Certain festivals and aligning all that. So it's pretty complex. So farewell tours usually take 2 to 3 years, but we have a date marked for sure that we want to end it. There's also like B markets that we want to play as far as like we're coming back to the US to do this right now. Coming up, we have a tour starting next week, and we're doing a lot of places we weren't able to play in the past. And we're also doing places we did play because in order for a tour to connect, you definitely need those big cities, to play in order to budget a tour in order to make everything kind of line up. So there's a lot that goes into that. It's great that people are able to see a show twice in certain places. But yeah, we're definitely working on finalizing that. I'm guessing around November or December is
Yeah.
the yeah.
And so you're back in the UK this summer, playing Bloodstock.
Hey.
Is that going to be your final UK date? Is that done then?
Is Dublin considered part of the United Kingdom? Yeah.
Not really.
No,
No,
not really.
you'll offend a
Northern
lot of
Ireland.
Irishmen saying that.
No, Northern Ireland.
Yeah, Northern Ireland is. Yeah,
Yes, that's what I meant. Yeah, Northern Ireland. I'm just trying to think. Um, yeah, I think that might be. Yeah.
yeah. So do you have anything special planned for that final UK show, the Bloodstock show?
Uh, Not at the top of my head. With festivals, it's difficult to. Not difficult to try to do different things, but you're limited with time. Which is the biggest problem. But maybe we'll think of something before that show.
Yeah.
Now that you mentioned it, so it'd be nice to do something special. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It's a great festival. We played it before, and it's great to see how it's grown and It's one of my favorites to play, and I love the people that run that festival. Vicky, she's fantastic, and her husband, and they work so hard and they're so passionate about music, and they treat the artists very well, and I can't wait to play it. So that will be, yeah, the final one in the UK, and I don't want to offend any Irishmen there. That's the last thing I want to do, because we do have a show in Dublin,
Yes.
but that will be very special, a Sepul type of festival.
Yes.
And I'm looking forward to that.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Derrick, thank you for talking to us this evening. And I want to
For
thank
sure.
you for 28 years with Sepultura. It's been one hell of a ride. So thank you for everything you've done.
Thank you so much for being at all, so many shows and supporting, and thanks for the interview.
Thanks for listening. Make sure you keep up to date with all of our interviews by subscribing to our channel. For all the latest news, reviews, interviews, and more, head over to our website, www.therazorsedge.rocks.